Hello everybody, welcome back once again. I've got another Triangle Strategy character guide for you. This time we're talking Corentin. I really like Corentin. I think that actually Corentin is the best mage at the end of the game. There's a while there where I think actually Frederica beats him for the top mage spot, but once he gets his final promotion and you get TP plus on ice, I think he actually has her beat. Because he's able to, generate more TP than she can. So, and then in both of those two, I should say, Frederica and Corentin have the other two mages, which is Narv and Izana, fully beat, like just blown out of the water. They have decent abilities, especially their spark type abilities, but it's because of the TP generation that I think that Frederica and Corentin beat those two out. But anyways, let's talk. So for accessories, I've got him equipped with a magic bracelet. Immunity to silence is good on a mage, right? You need to be able to actually be using your abilities. And then with the added bonus of, increasing your magic attack as well, which is their primary stat anyway. I think that those are great. I actually do have him equipped with a fire amulet, though I don't really know how necessary this is these days, but the reality is Corentin is very weak physically, and that's generally the case with all of the mages in the game, right? They have a really bad physical defense stat. But because he's got Blessing of Ice, it says it increases your ice resistance while decreasing your fire resistance. So he actually starts with a negative 30% fire resistance. So he'll take a lot of damage from anybody casting fire type abilities. But the reality is he stays in the back line, and he needs to be in the back line. And so it's pretty rare that he's going to get targeted with any sort of fire ability, but really your choice here on what you want to equip with him. Honestly, I think the better option is to just bump up his physical defense, because if he's going to get hit, it's probably by an archer, maybe by some crazy melee guy that, made his way into your back line somehow. And it's not really going to be a mage or anybody able to cast a fire ability. Sometimes there are archers that are, able to use fire arrows on you, but again, pretty few and far between. So I really don't know that the fire amulet is the best option. It's probably a defense bracelet, at the end of the game. But anyways, let's get into the stats here. Strength is 26, terrible. He's not going to do any damage whatsoever with physical attacks, so, it's not even worth it. You're better off throwing, items if you've run out of TP or something, right? Just throw, ranged ice stones or ranged fire stones, something like that. Physical defense, again, terrible. You really want to bump up his physical defense probably with accessories, or an accessory, at least one. And I really should have done that, but magic attack is really good. He does have the magic bracelet on, so this is a little bit better than it normally would be. It looks like he's probably at a 59 base magic attack, which is really good. And obviously, you need to have a good magic set if you're gonna be casting. His magic defense though is amazing. So it's usually the case that all the mages have really bad physical defense, but they do have good magic defense. So they'll take a little bit less damage from mages. Again, though. With the exception of anybody slinging fire spells at him is probably going to hit him pretty hard. His luck stat is terrible, but it doesn't matter because you shouldn't be swinging with him anyway. Accuracy, same thing. Who cares how accurate he is, because you shouldn't be attacking with him. His speed is not great. It's only a 25. That's certainly not the lowest in the game, but it's not good either. It's usually the case that Corentin acts last in my party. So you could make a case for throwing a speed amulet or a speed bracelet on him, just to bump up his speed as well. And actually, that probably is the way that you want to go. It's a toss up though between a physical defense, accessory or speed. Evasion, you're not going to evade anything. A 39, that's not great, but who really cares? Like he shouldn't be taking hits anyway. Because you're going to get slaughtered. But you're certainly not going to be evading any really either. Jump is 2 and movement is 5, so pretty standard when it comes to jump and movement. Alright, so let's talk his abilities. Blessing of Ice, again, already been over this, but increases your ice resistance while decreasing your fire resistance. So he's actually at a 45% ice resistance, but I think he might have a weapon ability that is increasing that too. Yeah, he's got ice resistance 1, so I think that's increasing it by another 15%. So Blessing of Ice gives you 30 frost resistance, and it reduces your fire resistance, though, by 30. So it's a trade-off, right? And it's basically just the mirror version of Frederica's. Icy Breath is basically his version of Scorch, but it deals ice damage and actually freezes the ground, which is pretty good. I like ice. I don't think I used it enough, but probably because I didn't get Corentin my first pass through the game. I got him on my second time around, but ice decreases the accuracy of anybody standing on it. And so, you know, you can throw a bunch of ice around to try to make sure that enemies are missing your characters more often. And so Icy Breath is one way to do that. Frosty Fetters is his single target ability. It's basically the ice version of Blazing Chains from Frederica. Although, I think while Frederica's slows, this will silence for 2 turns. This is really good. It's so strong, you will annihilate the tankier, like the pikemen and the shield bearers, because they've got really bad, you know, magic defense. So, and a really good ability for taking them out. It's also really good against bosses because it's just so strong. So if you really want to focus something down, that's the way to do it. Wall of Ice is fun. It's got some different uses. I actually used it on the Edor battle there on Frederica's route to to stop the Roselle from getting across the bridge, and that was probably the most fun I had with it. Otherwise, I really didn't use it that much, to be honest. I think that you know, there's probably other enemies that you could use, right, or other ways to use this, right, to protect your characters from enemies that are heading towards you, or to funnel them into, you know, corridors that you want. But I'll be honest, I didn't really use it that much. It was usually Frosty Fetters. That was probably the #1 ability that I used. Followed up maybe by Icy Breath, right? It's so easy to use them, and you know, getting damage dealt out as opposed to just kind of like, you know, cordoning off enemies is kind of the way to go. Icy Tomb. Sorry about that. I had to clear my throat a little bit, but it says deal ice type magic damage to all enemies standing on icy squares within range and unfreeze the target squares. You can see here the power on that is really good. That's almost Frosty Fetters level good. I'll be honest though, I barely ever use this. Maybe it's because of the ice requirement, right? So like you would have to either be throwing out, or you can have your allies throw out ice, like ranged ice stones and stuff, right, to get ice all over the place, or, you know, be using Icy Breath, right, to get ice all over the place. And then you can use Icy Tomb once they actually stand on those squares. It gets rid of the ice, right? But this also does, I mean, it does a ton of damage. So, I don't know, maybe I probably should have at least used that a little bit more often, but I just never really did. And I think, though, partially because I got Corentin, you know, on my second pass through the game. And so it didn't take long, and he had his final promotion. And I think I had my weapon skill pretty early, so I was really using this more to deal, you know, tons of damage. All right. Anyways, next up is Shield of Ice. Kind of the same thing here. This is really expensive, and yeah, it's cool because it gives you a barrier. It's kind of like Dragon Shield, but it's only a single target, right? So it says grant an ally a barrier that prevents them from taking damage once and counters when attacked. You know, so, you know, better if you're one of your characters is going to take a attack. This is really good actually against bosses. So like, I don't know, Rufus or something, right? If you're trying to tank Rufus with Eridor, for instance, Rufus does a ton of damage, and so do like the mercenaries in the game. You'll see them all over the place, and they're always trying to use that all or nothing ability. And so you can use Shield of Ice on somebody like, you know, I don't know, whoever. If you think they're about to take a hit. And not only will they not take any damage, but you'll deal a ton of ice damage actually to the attacker. So it is actually really good, and I think you know, a great way to kind of defend against bosses. So Something to think about. And here is what makes Corentin, in my opinion, the best mage in the game. It's the TP plus on ice. So it says grants 1 TP at the start of your turn when standing on an icy square. I guess the good and bad thing about Corentin being so slow is that normally that's going to mean that one of your other characters can throw an ice stone underneath Corentin before his turn, so that when he gets his turn, he'll get the extra TP. You kind of have to manage that a little bit, but of all of the mages, it's honestly the easiest to keep Corentin, getting an extra TP every turn. The only other person that comes close is Frederica, and the problem with her is she actually needs to get kill shots in order to keep her TP up, because otherwise you will, eventually run out with her, and then just have to stand around or throw at items, which I guess works as well. But I really do think that this is what makes him really the best. And I also really do like his Glacial Moon as well. So it says, deal ice-type magic damage to all enemies within range and freeze the ground, reaches further and deals greater damage than Icy Breath. And it is great. The range is 0 to 6. The area of effect of this is gigantic. And Glacial Moon is actually a good setup for Icy Tomb, right? So if you can throw at a Glacial Moon, freeze tons of squares, then you could follow up with an Icy Tomb and actually, unfreeze those squares, deal a bunch of damage. The range isn't quite as good on the Tomb as Glacial Moon, but it's a great combo for him to set up. So let's actually do that. Let's start a battle here. This is just a garbage. I think this is like God, what is this? Yeah, pincer attack. This is one of the earliest. But I just wanted to kind of show kind of some of the things that you can do with him. So let's do a in tandem with him. I don't know if actually this is that great of an idea, and I'm going to do a twofold turn, which kind of same deal. I don't know. Probably not going to end up being very efficient at all.
Where was I?
So unfortunately, though, I didn't throw any ice down like I should have to get him the extra TP, but I'll just battle cry with him. And so one of the things that I like about him and his Glacial Moon is, I guess it's kind of the difference between him and Frederica is Frederica's Sunfall is a charge type ability, whereas Glacial Moon is just cast right then and there. You can see the area of effect is gigantic, and so I really like that. And then here I'm actually just going to end his turn. Actually, you know what I should have done there was I should have cast underneath him, so that he'd have more TP. That would have been a little bit smarter for this. I probably wouldn't have killed as many enemies.
Nice try. I've been waiting for this.
Also, kind of a good combination is somebody like an Eridor here. And of course, I'm not going to have enough TP to use King Shield, but
I've done it now.
basically being able to provoke a ton of enemies and keep them, in a certain small area, and then the ability to annihilate with Icy Breath or Frosty Fat, even like Icy Tomb would be a great way to kind of combo. But yeah, that's the great thing, and again the reason why I prefer him over Frederica is Glacial Moon is just instant cast. You throw it down, it's done. There's no casting. There's no needing Benedict to use his now ability. There's no risk of enemies just walking outside the range because it's such a long cast. So that's pretty much it. Let's actually get out of here. It's really just Eridor for the combo. I mean, well, not just him for the combo, right? But Eridor does make a solid partner. But I mean, Eridor makes a good combo with Frederica as well, and for that exact same reason, right? He's able to keep enemies close to him, so that you can blast him with the AOE. But we'll just retreat here, and then we'll leave, and we'll go do the weapon abilities. Oops, don't want to return to title. Jeez. All right, let's go into these weapon abilities. All right, so as far as his, I would probably actually upgrade the weapon first, because Corentin, you're not going to get much out of the physical defense. 1 point is kind of meh, but also I shouldn't say that. When I first got Corentin, it was already my second pass through the game because I went with Rudolph first. And so I was actually able to buy almost everything right away. And so I actually didn't really have to put that much thought into it. But I think the weapon damage is probably the best because Corentin's going to be fairly safe. And you really need to keep him, safe anyway. And so, some of these more defensive type buffs aren't really all that important because he shouldn't be taking hits anyway. But I would go with that first. Definitely go with the physical defense as your second upgrade. Maybe the evasion next, although again, his evasion is so bad you're not going to be evading anything anyway. And then probably the HP. Then you can probably finish with the ice resistance last. As Frosty mages cast a lot of ice spells. So anytime you're going up against, as Frosty mages and yeah, I guess really it's just them. It's maybe not a bad idea to take Corentin, but I don't really honestly think he really needs the extra, ice defense anyway, but okay, might as well. All right, for second tier, I would probably start with the weapon damage first again. Next up, I would probably do the Frosty Fetters damage up. I used Frosty Fetters quite a bit more than Icy Breath. So the question is, do you want to do a lot more damage to a single target, or do you want to do more damage amongst a lot of enemies? And for me, I like to focus because again I'm playing hard mode, and I would rather get targets down to reduce incoming damage. And so I would rather just, have a nuke that's kind of as powerful as I can get it, a single target as far as I can get it, as opposed to, do a little bit more damage, but, not be as powerful to, like, multiple enemies. And also, the enemies don't always line up that great where an Icy Breath is really worth it, So again, I would rather just have the single target damage. Movement by 1. Not that important because usually Corentin's not moving around. I don't know that I would say that that's like the last upgrade, but it may very well be the least important upgrade. And then the magic damage. So yeah, I would probably go weapon damage, Frosty Fetters damage, probably magic attack. I mean, although these two is a toss-up, right? Or go with the movement. Really your call, but the movement, I don't know, it never really impressed me that much with Corentin because usually he's just standing still on a patch of ice and doesn't have to move very far. So, as far as the Weapon 3 upgrade, this one was a bit more of a no-brainer for me. It was Glacial Moon first. That ability is really, really good, and it hits decently hard. The AoE is gigantic, so you're going to be able to, really catch a lot of enemies in it. And then finish off with the magic attack by 2. So that is it. That is it for Corentin. Again, I think that he's the best mage in the game. Frederica, slightly worse than him. She's close, but excuse me. I think it's his, TP on ice that makes him the best. You just don't have to fuel him as much as you do with the rest of the mages in the game. So that is going to be it for Corentin. As always, hope the guide was helpful, and thanks for watching.